Hi, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about Live Trace, a very powerful tool from Adobe Illustrator. So first, what is Live Trace? Live Trace is a tool in Illustrator that helps you take a raster image and make vector art from it. As you can see in this example, raster images are made up of tiny little pixels, and when you blow those images up, you can have what's called a pixelated image, and it can get blurry. On the other side, you see a vector image of those letters, and they will remain clear and crisp even when you resize the image into a larger size. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the times you might use Live Trace in your work. We're also going to look at how to Live Trace an image, and then we're going to do a little bit deeper dive into image quality, what works well and what doesn't. So when might you use Live Trace? One of the most common times to use Live Trace is on found images and shapes. So maybe you're working on a design project and you just need a simple shape, or maybe just a simple shape to start from that you might manipulate later. So this is a common time to use image trace. You can take a picture of a shape or maybe find something on the internet and then take it into Illustrator and create vector art from that. Another very common time to use image trace is when vectorizing logos. So clients may bring you an old copy of a logo that they have had made, and all they have left is this print version on a flyer or on a napkin or off the bottom of their shoe. There's no telling what clients might bring you. So instead of trying to work with that low quality art, it might just be best to recreate the logo. And we can do that by taking the file into Illustrator and vectorizing it. Some other times you may use this tool would be if you have hand-drawn images. So it could be sketches you've done, like this cool cat in glasses, or maybe just a simple shape that you really were kind of working out by hand on in a notebook or something like that, and you want to capture that shape and then work with it in Illustrator. So again, you can take a picture of these images, bring them into Illustrator, and then use Live Trace. And for those of you who are more illustrators, you can do some pretty cool stuff working with photographs, either simple photographs like the one on top, or more complex images like those sneakers on the bottom. And you can take those into Illustrator, use Live Trace, and create some pretty cool illustrations working with these different features. So let's get into it. First, take a look at these simple steps on how to use Live Trace on an image. We'll be going through these step by step in the next part of this video, but go ahead and take a screen capture here and save this. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you want to do, you've already selected your image, so we need to start with this open Illustrator file. This is just an 8.5 by 11 blank new document. And we're going to place our image by going to File, going here to Place. And we'll just grab this. Let's grab this simple heart shape. You can see this is a pretty good quality image. There might be a little blur around the edges, but for what we're doing, I think this will be fine. So let's say we needed a heart shape for one of our projects that we're working on, and we wanted to we found something on the internet that we liked, and we want to use that as a Live Trace and create a vector from that. So we can size it up to any size needed. So we've got it here. The first thing we're going to do, according to our steps, is now we're going to select the image. There's a couple ways to get to Live Trace in Illustrator. But I want you to get comfortable using the properties panel and kind of working from there. So with our image selected, we can see this X across the image. So we know that that is a raster image. We can also double check that by going to our view and going to our outline view. Notice all we see is the selection box. We do not see those pretty vector lines. So going back to view and then going to preview will take us back to viewing our image. So we'll go over here to the properties panel. When your image is selected, you're going to have these choices down here, and we can see image trace is available for us. If your image is not selected, you will not see this option. So make sure your image is selected, and then we're just going to press image trace. And from here, it's going to have the presets loaded. So at this point, you have some choices to make. And most of the time, a good starting place is going to be black and white logo, particularly if you're tracing something that's black and white. If you're tracing something color, another good choice might be starting point is the 16 colors. But for our simple image here, we're just going to pick black and white logo. Now we have adjustments that we can make, and we'll see those here in a minute, but this is just a starting point. So automatically, maybe you saw that it shifted the preview. So at this point, we've got a rendering of what our trace is going to look like, but it's not done yet. You can see that because we still have that X showing here. So we want to dig a little bit deeper. We're going to go down to step 4. We're going to open the image trace panel. So you can see I got it handy here. Pull it off there, stand alone. So we have some more choices here. So let's walk through some of these. The first are the presets, right? So when we first clicked, we chose black and white logo. And if that didn't get us close to where we were going, we could go and check some of these others. And we'll explore that on some more complicated images. The next thing you have on this panel is the view. So this is right now set to tracing result. So what you're previewing is what the result is going to look like. It can also be helpful to view these other options. So you have tracing result with outlines. So you're seeing kind of both. It's previewing what those lines are going to look like. You also have just the outline preview. So again, this is a preview, but you can see how those outlines are coming out. With this simple shape, you're not going to see a lot of differences, but it's good to take a look at these. You can also go back to your source image or view outlines with your source image. So always take a look at that. We'll zoom in a little bit. You can see how it's rendering compared to your original when you view this outlines with source image. All right, so let's go ahead and look a little bit deeper. So now we have some threshold choices here. If you like what you had, that's fine. Notice what just happened when I changed the threshold. It changed how it rendered these points. So you can really be specific about that and really look at these different options. I think it started around here in the middle. You can see that was pretty close. If we were real particular about how those points came out, you can change it in this direction. You can go the other direction as well and see what kind of results you're getting. So I kind of like that middle option. I'm going to leave that there. Then you can see we have this advanced, and we can get a little bit deeper into how many paths something would have, how it interprets corners, and so on. And again, we'll get into that in some of the more complicated images. For right now, I want you to take a look here at this button that says Ignore White. This is something you need to think about. So while I would love to have step-by-step instructions that work perfect on every image, there is a little bit of an art to this and some process, and it will all depend on the images that you choose. So again, this is a choice. Ignore white means that it's going to ignore anything that appears white. So I'm going to show you what it looks like when we do not select Ignore White, and then I'll show you what it looks like when we do select Ignore White. So for this first one, we're just going to skip that and see what our results are. And we'll come back to that. So the next and probably most important step is expand. So we have our image trace panel here. There are two places you're going to see the expand button, and that's going to be in your properties panel when you're working with image trace. You can find it here. You can also often find it in your control menu up at the top, which I just had to open. So we're working here with image trace. You can see it's live here in your control bar, and then you have that expand button up here at the top as well. So this is not a traced image yet, not until you hit that expand button. Again, these lines you're seeing are previews at this point, and you know that because you have this X. So once we hit expand, this is, we like how the image is previewing, we like how it's turning out, and then we're going to go ahead and hit expand, and that's when it turns it into a vector. So you can see the lines there. It's no longer a preview because you're not seeing it here in the image trace as a preview. We can double check that by going up and viewing the outline view again. Again, that you can find that under your view, or you can hit Command or Control Y, and it will take you to that view. And look at that. You can see those nice clean vector lines. You can see the vector points as well. So now you know you're working with a vector image. So again, until you hit that expand button, you haven't actually committed the whole process yet. It's just previewing. So I'm going to hit Command or Control Y again and bring us back to that preview. Okay, so let's take a look at the white areas again here. So again, if you're on this image trace panel, you need to open up the advanced caret here and come down to ignore white space. So on this first one, we have our settings the way we want it. And like we did the first time, we're going to just leave this as it is. We're going to hit expand. You can see that we have all of those vectors there, but that it kept the white. Now on this one, we're going to do ignore white space. So I'm going to click that. Already you can see in the preview what's happening. Now we can only see that because I did put this color behind it. If we didn't have the color behind it, you really wouldn't see any difference in the preview. So I'm going to put that back. We've got ignore white. And again, most important thing, make sure to hit that expand button. That's going to turn it into a vector. So looking at these, we have the same black heart shape. We can go in there with our tools and we can adjust it if we wanted to. Take our curve and we could change this because this is all now vector. If you end up with the white shape like this, you can easily just go in and select that. So you can select that white piece. You can see I'm moving it around and then just hit delete and that's gone. So that's really the basic steps of how to create a vector image from a raster image using Live Trace in Illustrator. So again, you need to select the image that you want, make sure it's a good quality image. Then you're going to place that image into your Illustrator file. Step 2, you will select your image. So make sure that it's selected with your selection tool, and then you're going to press Live Trace. Be sure that you go through the different presets and select one that works for your image. And then you will open up the Live Trace panel and make adjustments to fine-tune your output. So that's those little details that you can adjust to make your vector come out just the way you want it to. You can always use the view setting to preview the line art. And then think about white. Think about the white in your image and how you want to work with that. Depending on your image, you may want to choose ignore white. Then step number 7, when your image looks correct, you hit that expand button. And that's when it traces your image. But don't stop there. You need to take a look at your image, clean up any of those missing pieces or colors that didn't turn out the way you wanted to, or possibly combine shapes or colors depending on your image. And so that's the basics, and we're going to dive in a little bit deeper to some more complex images and see how those different choices you have will impact your final piece of vector art. So that concludes the first part of this video where we've created vector art from a raster image using LiveTrace. View the next video for a deeper dive on recreating a logo using LiveTrace.